What I'm about to share with you are the exact 5 habits I personally recommend to every high-risk patient who walks into my clinic. Not supplements, not procedures, daily habits backed by decades of research that can measurably reduce your cancer risk after 50 at the cellular level. Most doctors never bring this up in a regular appointment, and that needs to change. If this is the kind of science-based health content you want more of, hit subscribe and leave a like right now, because every week we go this deep. Let's get into it. What follows is not theory, but a set of 5 habits recommended to high-risk patients in a clinical setting for over a decade. The results observed in patients who applied these habits consistently have been, in many cases, genuinely remarkable to witness. Most adults over 50 have never been told what research now confirms about the most powerful cancer prevention tool available. That tool costs nothing, requires no prescription, and can be put into practice before finishing a single educational video. After 27 years as an oncologist and cancer prevention researcher, the question has always been the same at its core. Why do some people develop cancer after 50 while others, facing similar circumstances and backgrounds, simply do not? The answers found through decades of clinical research have fundamentally changed how patients are counseled in this field. In 2022, researchers at Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health published a landmark study in JAMA Oncology on this topic. That study followed over 135,000 adults across 2 decades, making it one of the largest of its kind. The central finding was that people who consistently practiced a specific cluster of daily habits reduced cancer risk significantly. Specifically, those individuals reduced their overall cancer risk by up to 61% compared to those who did not. That is not a marginal improvement, but a difference that for hundreds of thousands of people may separate diagnosis from health. Today, we will examine 5 of the most powerful cancer prevention habits available to adults over 50, ranked by impact. The habits will be presented in order from foundational to life-altering, building toward the single most impactful one. By the end, the goal is to understand not just what to do, but exactly why each habit works at the cellular level in the body. The order of these habits matters because each one builds upon the previous and compounds the protective effect of the last. The number 1 habit, the one most consistently present in the most dramatic patient transformations, is widely underestimated. We begin with habit number 5, which operates through a mechanism that most people have never had properly explained to them. Every cell in the body is constantly replicating, dividing, and replacing itself as part of normal biological function. In a healthy body, a process called DNA mismatch repair acts like a proofreader, catching errors before they become mutations. That proofreading system identifies mistakes in the genetic code before those mistakes have the opportunity to become tumors. After the age of 50, the efficiency of DNA repair enzymes naturally declines by roughly 30 to 40% in most adults. The body becomes a less reliable proofreader at exactly the moment when decades of cellular wear have accumulated the most errors. Ultra-processed foods, including packaged snacks, fast food, processed deli meats, and sugar-sweetened beverages, worsen this decline. These foods flood cells with compounds called advanced glycation end products, which directly impair the body's repair enzymes. A 2023 study from Imperial College London published in the European Journal of Nutrition followed 197,000 adults. That study found that those with the highest ultra-processed food intake had a 32% higher risk of colorectal cancer. The same participants also showed a 19% higher risk of breast cancer compared to those eating primarily whole foods. That same year, researchers at the National Cancer Institute confirmed findings published in Cancer Research on this topic. Their analysis found that ultra-processed food consumption was independently associated with a 28% increase in cancer mortality. Importantly, this association held even after accounting for obesity, smoking, and physical activity levels in the study population. This means the food itself, not just the weight it may cause someone to gain, appears to be a contributing biological factor. One patient, a 58-year-old administrator, came in after her sister received a colon cancer diagnosis, seeking guidance. Her diet consisted of morning cereal, a deli sandwich at lunch, packaged crackers, and processed cheese as a daily afternoon snack. Her inflammatory markers, specifically C-reactive protein and interleukin-6 levels, were both found to be significantly elevated. Over 12 months, she replaced her ultra-processed staples with whole food alternatives without any other simultaneous intervention. She chose oats, legumes, vegetables, and olive oil as her primary replacements for the processed items she had previously consumed. Her C-reactive protein levels dropped by 44%, and her interleukin-6 normalized completely over that period. Her follow-up colonoscopy showed a reversal of the low-grade mucosal inflammation her gastroenterologist had previously noted. For practical implementation, this means making one concrete dietary shift per meal rather than attempting to change everything at once. Morning cereal can become oatmeal with berries, while a packaged snack bar can be replaced with an apple and a handful of walnuts. Processed deli meat can be replaced with grilled chicken or a hard-boiled egg as a simple and accessible whole food alternative. These are not deprivation choices, but rather choices that support cellular protection through reduced inflammatory food exposure. Combining this habit with habit number 4 compounds the reduction in systemic inflammation in a way that research finds significant. Studies suggest that the two habits working together produce a greater anti-inflammatory effect than either one achieves independently. Habit number 4 concerns something that most people associate only with rest, but that oncologists understand very differently. When thinking about sleep from an oncological perspective, the focus falls on a process called immune surveillance in the body. Immune surveillance is among the most extraordinary cancer-fighting mechanisms the human body naturally possesses and maintains. The immune system contains specialized cells called natural killer cells whose primary job involves patrolling the body's tissues. These cells identify and destroy early-stage cancer cells before those cells have the opportunity to establish themselves in the body. Natural killer cell activity is almost entirely regulated by sleep cycles, specifically the deep, slow-wave stages of the night. Stages 3 and 4 of non-REM sleep are when the body releases proteins called cytokines that directly amplify natural killer cells. After the age of 60, the proportion of slow-wave sleep the body naturally generates drops by approximately 50%. This means the body's internal cancer surveillance system may be operating at roughly half its intended capacity by that age. A 2019 study from the University of Chicago found that just 1 week of sleeping fewer than 6 hours reduced natural killer cell activity. That reduction in natural killer cell activity measured 70% in otherwise healthy adults participating in the study. A 2021 analysis from the International Agency for Research on Cancer reviewed data from 27 studies and over 2 million people. It found that chronic short sleep, defined as fewer than 6 hours nightly, was associated with a 40% increased breast cancer risk. The same analysis identified a 36% increased risk of prostate cancer and a 55% increased colorectal cancer risk. These associations were observed specifically in adults over 55 with consistently short sleep duration across the study period. One patient, a 63-year-old retired engineer, came in after a precancerous polyp was found during a routine colonoscopy. He was not obese, did not smoke, and exercised regularly, but his sleep was consistently fractured and shorter than 6 hours nightly. A structured sleep hygiene protocol was implemented, including a consistent 10:30 bedtime and complete darkness after 9 in the evening. The bedroom temperature was set to 67 degrees Fahrenheit, and a magnesium glycinate supplement was added to support deep sleep. Within 8 weeks, his sleep duration had increased to 7.5 hours per night based on objective tracking data collected. His deep sleep stages had doubled according to the tracking data, and his natural killer cell count had increased by 38%. The most actionable starting point for sleep optimization is what researchers call anchor sleep, built around a consistent wake time. Committing to the same wake time every morning, including weekends, anchors the circadian rhythm more powerfully than bedtime alone. Even 1 week of consistent wake timing has been shown to measurably improve sleep architecture in adults over 50 years of age. When sleep optimization is paired with the dietary changes from habit number 5, the body's inflammatory baseline drops significantly. At that lower baseline, the immune surveillance system can function more closely to the way it was biologically designed to function. Habit number 3 addresses something that is often misunderstood because of the associations the word exercise tends to carry. What is being described here is purposeful daily movement, and its effects on cancer biology are both specific and well documented. At the center of this habit is a molecule called insulin-like growth factor 1, commonly referred to in research as IGF-1. IGF-1 is a hormone that promotes cell growth, a function that is both useful in youth and potentially problematic after age 50. In younger adults, IGF-1 drives healthy development, but chronically elevated levels after 50 may create conditions that favor cancer. Sedentary behavior directly drives elevated IGF-1 levels, and those elevated levels may act to accelerate cancer cell proliferation. Regular moderate movement is among the only lifestyle interventions proven to lower baseline IGF-1 levels in adults consistently. It simultaneously upregulates a tumor-suppressing protein called p53, which functions as a powerful internal stop signal against malignant growth. A 2020 study from the American Cancer Society tracked 186,000 adults over 10 years on this specific question. Adults who engaged in at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity movement per week showed a 42% lower colon cancer risk. The same study found a 38% lower risk of breast cancer recurrence and a 26% lower all-cause cancer mortality. A companion study from the University of Queensland published in The Lancet in 2022 examined the effects of breaking up prolonged sitting. Simply taking 5-minute walks every hour reduced blood markers of tumor-promoting inflammation by 27% in participants. This reduction occurred without any structured exercise program, suggesting that movement frequency may matter as much as duration. One patient, a 71-year-old woman who had completed treatment for stage 1 breast cancer, came in fearing recurrence above all. She had arthritis and was unable to run or participate in traditional gym-based workouts due to the physical limitations she experienced. A movement protocol was built around what she was physically capable of doing within the constraints of her existing condition. This included 20 minutes of brisk walking after breakfast, standing while watching television, and 5-minute breaks during sedentary periods. At her 12-month follow-up, her IGF-1 levels had dropped by 23% compared to her baseline measurements at the start. Her oncologist noted significantly improved natural killer cell counts in her blood work, and she reported transformed energy and mental clarity. For practical implementation, starting with a 20-minute walk after the largest meal of the day is a well-supported beginning point. Research from Stanford published in 2021 found that post-meal walking suppresses glucose spikes that independently fuel cancer cell metabolism. That suppression measured up to 33%, suggesting that the timing of movement relative to meals carries specific biological value. No gym membership or equipment is required to begin, only a consistent commitment and access to a door that opens to the outdoors. When this movement habit is layered with sleep optimization and dietary changes, 3 key cancer-promoting molecules decline together. Those molecules, IGF-1, C-reactive protein, and interleukin-6, reach lower levels in combination than any single intervention achieves alone. Habit number 2 addresses something that most people consider a wellness concept rather than a clinical cancer prevention strategy. Chronic psychological stress is now understood by many oncologists to be one of the most under-recognized drivers of cancer after 50. The central mechanism involves cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, and its effects when elevated over prolonged periods of time. Short-term cortisol release is healthy and adaptive, representing the body's natural emergency response to immediate challenges or threats. But when cortisol remains chronically elevated due to persistent stress, anxiety, grief, loneliness, or unresolved trauma, problems follow. Chronic cortisol elevation suppresses the expression of BRCA1 and BRCA2, two of the body's most critical DNA damage repair genes. It also upregulates an inflammatory pathway called NF-kappa B, which promotes tumor cell survival and resistance to natural cell death. In practical terms, chronic stress may signal the body to keep damaged cells alive rather than eliminating them through normal processes. The natural elimination of damaged or malignant cells through a process called apoptosis is disrupted when this pathway is chronically active. A 2022 study from Ohio State University's Comprehensive Cancer Center published in Nature Immunology examined this mechanism in detail. It found that chronic psychological stress reduced tumor-infiltrating lymphocyte activity by 48% in adults over 60. A 2023 meta-analysis from the Karolinska Institute drew on data from 16 studies and nearly 500,000 participants worldwide. Adults with clinically elevated chronic stress markers had a 43% higher risk of developing hematological cancers in that analysis. The same group also showed a 31% higher risk of lung cancer compared to participants with low measured stress markers. One patient, a 66-year-old recently retired executive, described himself as finally relaxing when he came in for evaluation. His blood work told a different story, showing an inverted cortisol rhythm that was low in the morning and elevated at night. He had developed what researchers call allostatic load, a state of chronic biological stress imprinting that can persist without perceived stress. His BRCA1 expression was measurably suppressed based on laboratory analysis conducted at the time of his initial evaluation visit. A structured daily protocol was implemented, including 12 minutes of slow diaphragmatic breathing each morning using a specific pattern. That breathing pattern involved inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 7, and releasing slowly over 8 counts each morning. A 15-minute evening walk without a phone and regular weekly social engagement were added as complementary components of the protocol. At 6 months, his cortisol rhythm had normalized and his NF-kappa B markers had dropped by 31% from baseline levels. His oncology team noted improved lymphocyte counts across multiple measurements taken during the 6-month follow-up evaluation period. A 2021 study from Carnegie Mellon University identified the minimum effective dose of stress regulation for measurable biological impact. Just 12 minutes of daily mindful breathing practiced consistently over 8 weeks reduced salivary cortisol levels by 26%. The same practice measurably improved natural killer cell counts in adults over 55 who participated in that study consistently. No therapist, retreat, or app subscription is required to begin. Only a quiet chair and 12 minutes of slow, intentional breathing. When this stress regulation practice is combined with the sleep optimization from habit number 4, the benefit is compounded further. Cortisol is one of the primary suppressors of slow-wave sleep stages, meaning lower cortisol levels directly support deeper, more restorative sleep. Everything covered so far in this discussion, diet, sleep, movement, and stress regulation, serves as preparation for habit number 1. Habit number 1 ties every mechanism previously discussed into a single unified biological intervention supported by human clinical trials. It is the single habit that, if only one could be chosen for every adult over 50, would be the one selected above all others. This habit is often misunderstood, oversimplified, or dismissed as a weight loss trend, but that framing misses its clinical significance. What is being described is a specific biological protocol with documented anti-tumor mechanisms confirmed in human research trials. The mechanism at its center is a cellular process called autophagy, from Greek words meaning self-eating or self-cleansing internally. When the body enters a fasted state, typically between 13 and 16 hours after the last meal, autophagy becomes activated. During this state, cells begin to identify, dismantle, and recycle damaged components, including pre-malignant cells and defective structures. This process functions like a deep internal diagnostic and cleanup cycle that the body runs when not occupied with digesting food. In healthy younger adults, this cycle operates reasonably well as part of the body's natural cellular maintenance and repair system. After age 50, autophagy efficiency declines sharply, reduced by an estimated 40 to 50% compared to earlier decades. Modern eating patterns, with food available from early morning to late at night, mean most adults rarely enter a sufficient fasted state. When the fasted state is not reached consistently, damaged cells accumulate, and accumulated cellular damage underlies cancer development. A 2019 study from the University of Southern California published in Cell Metabolism examined time-restricted eating over 12 weeks. Adults who restricted eating to a consistent 10-hour window daily showed a 34% reduction in insulin-like growth factor 1. The same participants showed a 29% reduction in C-reactive protein inflammatory markers compared to controls in the study.